recording now. And just a little Zoom housekeeping. We've been living our lives on Zoom, so this may be repetitive for a lot of us, but for those of us who are participating this evening, feel free to choose to have your video on or off. It's whatever makes you feel most comfortable, especially knowing we will be recording this evening's session. If you'd like to ask a question live, you can unmute to do so once we get to that part of the session. You can also feel free to send in questions via chat if you feel more comfortable doing so that way. If you don't want everyone to see your question, you can also directly chat either Kate, who you'll hear from in just a moment, or myself, and we'll make sure that your question gets asked to all of this evening's panelists. And one other note, I'm going to show a quick video here. I think it could be helpful for our panelists this evening if they could know a little bit about our students and their backgrounds. So if you feel comfortable and have the ability to do so, if you can rename yourself. So our panelists know your first name, the pronouns that you use, your year of graduation, and whatever your major is, just so we can make sure that we're addressing all your needs in tonight's session. So if you wouldn't mind doing that for us, we'd really appreciate it. And I'm going to turn things over to Kate now.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to echo Lindsay's welcome. We're very excited for tonight and to have this opportunity to, connect you all and get your questions answered. I'm going to have some questions, and I'm taking a few from those that submitted some even prior to the event. But as Lindsay said, this is really meant for you and to really let you lead and get those things that are on your mind and ask employers. And I think some might actually be alum too. I think at least one of you might be, kind of their area of expertise here. Many of them are in the recruiting side of the house, so they really know what it's like to sit in your shoes and be going through the different things you're going through. So I'll also say this, especially just knowing some of the questions that were asked prior to it, even though we're calling this our networking during the pandemic, and we're certainly going to talk about the power of networking, your questions do not have to be all about networking. So I know I saw a lot about just like job search in general, or, connecting with recruiters, or kind of Zoom etiquette and interview etiquette. So all questions are really welcome. So please do not hesitate to either, again, put your hand up, take yourself off mute, or let us know in the chat what those questions are that you want to get answered. So just a quick introduction to myself. I'm Kate Shelloway. I'm the Associate Director in the Career Development Center. I don't want to assume that we all know about the Career Center. So if our office is new to you, we assist students with everything on the career spectrum. So this could be working through major choice and career exploration, to writing resumes, which is what most people think about us for, cover letters, practicing interviewing. We obviously have great employer connections that we like to get those opportunities in front of students. So it's really the whole gamut of your career journey. And I won't go too deep into all the Career Center can do, but if you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer those as well. So I'm going to turn it over to our panelists for tonight to get us going. We did have one panelist that unfortunately had a child emergency, so that might not be a new thing for some of you on the call. I will share her information at the end as well, because she's still happy to have you reach out if she was someone that you want to connect with. So at the end, I'll be sharing that contact info, so just know that'll be coming too. So I'm gonna kick it off with Erin, if you don't mind. Just a quick intro to kind of, your career history, your background, anything that you want to start us off with.
Yeah, of course. Well, thanks for having me, Kate and Lindsay, and the rest of you. Hello. My name is Erin Murphee, and I currently work for Primepay, which is an HR payroll company. I do the recruiting and employee engagement type activities for the business, staffing like nationwide pretty much. But I've been with the company for 4 years. Prior to that, I was with a staffing agency for a few years, and prior to that, I was with a nonprofit leading youth development programming. I actually am an alum of Westchester University, and I graduated with exercise science and nutrition as my minor, so a little bit different. But I think all in all, you know, I figured out what direction I wanted to kind of move my career in by just, you know, taking a leap of faith and trying something different. And I've found that I really enjoy like the HR piece of different, being able to connect with a lot of people throughout the nation and helping individuals such as yourself to start your career or to change things up and help you move forward in that direction.
Thank you, Erin. Deb, do you mind going next?
Nope. Hi, everyone. Deb Maccariella. I am so sorry about my video issues, but whenever I try to do something from home, it never works near as well as when I'm in the office, and I apologize for that. As I said, my name is Deb Maccariella. I am the Deputy Director of the County of Chester Human Services. I too am an alum of Westchester. I graduated in 1980 something or other with a social work degree. I've been with the county for over 30 years since I got that degree. I started my career with children and youth, which I didn't want to do, but they had openings, and I had friends who were in my seminar classes who were interning at children and youth, and I said, no way would I go there. Spent about 12 years there, switched positions, moved up the ladder, switched departments, and here I am today as the Deputy Director of the Human Services.
Awesome. Thank you, Deb. I don't want to mispronounce your name, so.
Oh, that's okay. Well, would be the first. My name's Thuy.
Thuy. Okay, thank you, Thuy.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Thuy Yancy, and I'm the coordinator of recruitment for a local nonprofit called CCRES. We stand for Chester County Regional Education Services. I am a proud Westchester alum and graduated from the criminal justice program. And I mean, the Westchester University's Career Development Center has been a tremendous support for me when I was a student. So I'm going to echo what Deb had mentioned in the chat, that, yeah, please utilize every piece of service that, you know, that Westchester Career Development Center has to offer to you, because it will carry you on for a lifetime of your career. So here I am 15 years later, you know, still stay connected with the university and organization. So I am on the recruitment side for CCRES, and we hire staff to work one-to-one or in small group settings with children with special needs in the Chester County and surrounding areas. So we hire folks in a 6-county region: Chester County, Delaware County, Montgomery, Lancaster, Lebanon, and Berks County area. So I've actually, right after graduation, I've been staffing in the behavioral health and education field for the last 15 plus years. Absolutely love what I do. I love the ability to connect with people, to help them find careers in truly making a difference in the lives of children who really need you the most. So really excited to be here today and kind of network amongst students and as well as other employers here. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, and last but not least, MJ.
All right, well, I'm not a Westchester alum, but I am a Westchester parent. So there you go. My name is MJ Schmidt, and I work for ReMed. We are a provider of brain injury services to adults across a network of about 10 states at this point. And I am somebody who really has used networking a lot, whether I intended to or not, to kind of have my career trajectory. I came to the world of brain injury through a family tragedy. You know, I had a brother who had a very severe brain injury when I was in college. And when I went to graduate and was looking for a job, I'd been majoring in psychology. My connections were very much in the brain injury side. I knew a lot of people, and that is how I found my first job, which was in an acute rehab hospital. My boss there loved me, but recommended me to someone else on the post-acute side, which is how I got to ReMed when I was very young. And from there, I went on to graduate school. I worked there for some time, went to graduate school. And when I was getting ready to finish, I called them up and said, my degree is now in healthcare administration, and I have some ideas about things that I could provide to start an outpatient program or to do a couple of other things. And they actually flew me in, and I interviewed again with them and made my pitch and began my career with them, which I have been involved with them across many years. But I don't actually work for them all that much. I do university relations for them, but after having kids, I sort of took some time off, and I also am the training and outreach coordinator for the Brain Injury Association of the state of Pennsylvania. And in that work, I connect to all kinds of people on a variety of projects. And so I feel like I am somebody who has really, I think without intending it, found lots of unique, interesting places for me to do work through having a network of people and being willing to say, could you, would you, or I'd like to try this. And so I hope that we can talk a little bit about that with the folks who are here with us tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciated all of those introductions. Like, I think it really showed the amazingness of your paths and the fact that they can start in one place and go in a lot of other ways, which I think resonates with a lot of people on the call today. And we really kind of already started to segue into this idea and the power of networking in that career path and process. So I think that will be a great place for us to kick things off. I'll also say, I'm sure this is probably, panels are always interesting on Zoom. So, you know, we might talk over each other once in a while. That's okay. We'll all give each other grace to kind of just answer things as you need and taking different turns in this fun Zoom environment. So I think a great place to start really would be concentrating on this idea of networking. So I think in the sense of just kind of speaking to the power of networking. And I also know that there's a lot of kind of concern or unsure how to begin or continue a network in this very virtual environment, you know, and not being able to maybe have that one-to-one or those personal connections or those casual connections that happen when we're engaging in real life. So I think, yeah, anything related to that, just the power and how it's importance of networking, and maybe any tips on how to continue doing it in this very virtual world that we are going to be living in for at least a little while longer. And again, jump in as panelists, whatever makes sense for you all.
I'll go first, I guess. So again, this is Erin Murphee. Power networking, it's something that I love talking about because I think people don't realize how important it is to network. It's almost, I'm sure your parents growing up told you never to burn bridges. It's pretty much the same thing. Don't burn the bridge. Keep that network open. Keep your conversations going with people. So with, you know, of course, you're going to networking events, live networking events, different committees that you might have been on and stuff in 6, 7, 8 months ago, but definitely has changed. So the biggest thing that I see that I've been doing even more that I really, every time I go to any career fair, especially Westchester, I'm like, do you have LinkedIn? Get on LinkedIn. Make sure you have this, do this, because LinkedIn is probably the biggest networking tool out there right now. You can connect with so many different people at so many different levels within a company, within a business, and you can always send them messages. And you can see if they read it or not. So that kind of gets you a step there, especially if you're applying to positions. You want to be able to stand out in a way. So of course, right now, unfortunately, you know, our society is, the unemployment rate is just so crazy right now. So there's so many applicants coming in constantly. And yes, it's a piece of paper. It's something that's there, and yours will look very similar to a lot of other people. So you have to understand how to stand out. And that really starts from networking. So I really suggest getting on LinkedIn and having all your information on there and research who you're applying to and reach out to someone in the company and make the connection that way. I know from my perspective, when I get that, I am more than, even if I feel that the person's not the best fit for the position, I'm more than open to connecting with them and talking to them, be it virtually or on the phone. And I think, you know, a person that's good at their job and really likes to do something like this will do that, and take time to help that you guys advance, because obviously I know the saying right now, we're all in this together, but I truly feel that. And just going, I know I'm going roundabout, but networking is just huge, and I think LinkedIn is definitely going to be your #1 networking source right now.
I ditto everything that Erin said. And I put in the chat, never be afraid to reach out no matter what. The people that are on the recruiting end of that are more than happy to talk to you, meet with you, help you, myself included. It may not be with Chester County, but if you tell me you have something in particular, and if I know that I can at least direct you in a path, I will do that. And don't be afraid to talk to anybody. One of the things that I do all day, every day when I'm out and about, one of my greatest interns who also came from Westchester happened to be the barista at Starbucks, who I just happened to strike up a conversation with. And I said, hey, what are you doing? She says, oh, I'm a social work major at Westchester. Really? You probably are going to need an internship, aren't you? And she said, absolutely. And we connected that way, but I am always out and about recruiting. Never be afraid to talk to anyone, no matter where they are, because you don't know what door that they open for you, even if you think, why would I talk to Deb Maccariella about human services when I want to do X, Y, and Z? It's all about all of those other connections that we all have that may get you where you need to be. And use the career services.
I would ditto something that Erin started out with, which was about not burning bridges. And I'm just going to be blunt and say that one of the things that I have noticed is a lot of people who sort of start the networking process or the job application process or the job search, and then they fall away and you cannot find them, and you've set time aside for them and they're not responding to you. And while I know that life happens, and maybe you lose interest or you got an offer, the impression that that leaves behind could haunt you later. And so there's never fault in just like reaching back out and saying, you know, Deb, I was going to come down and chat with you, or I was going to make that call, but life got away from me. I'm really sorry. This is just not a great time. I really am appreciative of that. However it is that you do that, it's something I think that is more easy because we're all online, and it's terrible. It happens a lot, and it leaves a bad taste in the mouth of the people that are trying to be helpful.
Yeah, so this is Thuy Yancy here from CCRES, and just as all you know, Deb, MJ, and Erin has stated, I mean, just in the last, I mean, it's only Tuesday, but like I've had 2 candidates who ghosted me out of virtual Zoom interview. And, you know, although you would think, oh, all right, well, everything's on Zoom now and it's easy. It's easier for a candidate to get in front of you without cutting the time of commute. But yeah, I mean, quite simply, it's the most important thing with networking and as you're applying for jobs is kind of over communicating your process and your expectations. And as MJ stated, like if you've got other things going on, just simply communicate that, because, you know, particularly even if it's through an email, like you never know if you're going to need to reach back out to that employer because your other opportunity that you kind of wanted a little bit more ended up not working out. 2-3 months later, you're going to inevitably circle back to you know, to other opportunities that were in your pipeline at some point in time. So that's critical. And even aside from LinkedIn, we've actually had quite a number of hires just through Facebook networking. So if you are looking for something in particular, putting it out there in your own group, and, you know, other folks have shared, you know, opportunities, and that it, you know, lands back up here on our recruitment desk. And maybe more particularly because in the industry I hire for within the school system, oftentimes we are working with folks where they're looking for a second career. Maybe they had a career in pharmaceutical or business industry, but at one point in time they had a degree in psychology and now they want to, or in education, that now they want to go back to school and obtain their teaching certification. So hey, they might go work as a one-to-one personal care assistant or a paraprofessional school district to start building on their experience, and start networking within a school district setting for when they do become a certified teacher. So there's things like that, you know, as you know, putting the feelers out there, maintaining communication, and again, over communicating sometimes with that hiring manager or recruiter is always important, because you never know when you're going to circle back around to them again.
Appreciate all of that. And I think an overarching theme from all of your answers too is kind of knowing that networking is not just who you know, it's who your network knows, right? And that can go for you in good and bad ways. So don't burn those bridges, because you might not realize, you know, that Erin and MJ talk, and if you ghost one of them, they might just be saying, hey, they were actually not a really professional candidate when they were with us. Or in that positive way. I can tell stories where someone's maybe applied for a job and it didn't work out in that sense, but they got a referral from that person they did an interview with for another job that they did get, right? So that's really one of the interesting powers of all of those connections. Some of you mentioned some of this like communication piece to things. So could we dive into maybe a little bit more of that, even like that initial outreach? So whether that's, okay, I'm going to go on LinkedIn and I'm going to do this outreach, where I am going to think about my own network that I already have, but try to use it more intelligently. Just like a little bit of that. What kind of communication stands out? What's professional? Are there any don'ts in kind of making those outreach and those asks of people when you're trying to grow your network?
Can I just talk about some basics that people just kind of overlook, in my opinion? Absolutely. When you're looking for a job and you leave a phone number, please don't have some hip hoppy, rappy, whatever kind of song as your message. That's an indicator, you know, if you're trying to be professional, we're making professional calls, you know, clean that stuff up. Also create a different email for you. If you're hotchicks632 at whatever, please become something more professional. Clean up your Facebooks and those kinds of things, because we do go out there and look at them. And even if it was 10 years ago, you know, it still may be an indicator. So you want to be careful about what you put out on social media. And think about the impact of an employer seeing those kinds of things, depending on where you're going to work. So those are just real basic tips for me. And then always please respond, because as Kate said, you know, you don't know who we're talking to, or you come back and you haven't responded. I'm a mentor with Alice's Circle on campus as well. And I had a student who I was mentoring who said, oh, Deb, I'm going to use you as a reference. Is that okay? Yeah, sure. You can use me as a reference. And she told me who might be calling me. They called me, I gave the reference. And then a day later, I got a call from another organization about her. And I said, oh, I thought you wanted this job. And she said, well, yeah, I just went ahead and interviewed with all these places. I'm just going to see what happens. Yeah, no, told her not a good move. It's okay if you want to do those things, but don't say something to one employer and then be out there doing all these other things and then call us back or not call us back, and then you've accepted this position someplace else. Just close the loop. It's okay. We won't be offended if you don't take our position. We would rather you be honest with us and say, unfortunately, I can't accept that position because it doesn't close the door. You handled it professionally. That job may not work out. You're going to come back and we're going to go, okay, great. The other thing is when you apply for positions, just because you didn't get a call back or you didn't get the job does not mean that you were not as qualified in our book. It just means that someone had some other different qualifications that we were looking for. But I always know in the back of my mind, I'm going to reach back out to so-and-so because they did a good job. It wasn't maybe for this position, but that's not an automatic you know, oh my gosh, they didn't take me the first go round, so I won't go back to them again. Apply as often as you like. As far as I'm concerned, that's okay. And like I said, we may only have one position and maybe 10 people applied. And unfortunately, all 10 can't have the position, but you do well, I will reach back out and go, hey, we're going to post this position. I think you might be interested in that. So again, with don't close the door, don't burn your bridge, because you don't know.
And, you know, and following up of what Deb stated with that level of communication after the interview, I know organizationally, I mean, we have 16 colleagues in our office, and every single person, what stands out for us after we interview someone is even just like an email just to say, hey, thank you for the opportunity to interview me for that paraprofessional position. I really enjoyed learning about CCRES and, you know, blah, 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 whatever. But, you know, just even something like that stands out when, you know, we are working with, you know, high volume of applicants. And even just with email communication, what we've noticed in the last few years with everybody kind of on the go, and they communicate through email as if they're texting. So like punctuation is missing, or just even simple, you know, uppercase starting a sentence, you know, things like that. Like folks are communicating with us as if they're texting. And instead of typing out YOU, they just might simply type in the letter U. But even just from a, you know, an HR standpoint, we're still looking, you're still being evaluated as a candidate by how you are communicating, even if it is through like email form. So, you know, my two big things to stand out while you're networking and or interviewing is just, you know, the format of your email, still keep it, you know, professional looking, not as if you were texting. And then also after the interview, sending a thank you email to follow up is something that's, you know, positively impressionable.
I definitely have to agree with Thuy. I was going to say the texting emails. We take time, I feel like, to send out a message letting you know why we're interested in you. There's that greeting, our summary, and the conclusion. And then there's so many times that I've had messages back and they're not even answering my full email of questions that I asked, of dates and times that they're available. So really, if you're on the go and you're excited and you see that email, that's awesome. Wait until you slow down and be able to sit down later that night and respond, or the next morning. Try to respond definitely within that 24 hours. I would say when you are applying to positions, honestly, constantly check your email. Be on the lookout for that. Constantly check your LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn messages that you do get for emails, they should be connected to your email, and you can actually reply directly from your email inbox instead of signing on LinkedIn, which is always a great feature. But also going off of what Deb said, if you guys check out my LinkedIn, I've been doing a lot of videos just on topics like this. And one of it was about voicemails, and one, having a greeting set up in general. Some people do forget to have that greeting. Try not to have just the generic one where it's your phone number, because not just to hear your voice, but we want to make sure we're calling the right person. So make sure you say you have your name there, just phone number, and that you'll get back to us. Because there's definitely been times, as Deb mentioned, I've had some interesting ringback tones that you really don't too much really care to listen to at that time. So just make sure that that part is professional as well. And then, you know, again, just certainly make sure to stay professional. And actually, I did mention, make sure that your voicemail box is cleaned up. So you do receive voicemails to be able to get an interview and to be able to get that job offer. But in regards to, Kate was asking how to really reach out. Just going back to what Thuy was saying, make sure, you know, if you're reaching out, you can connect with them on LinkedIn, just send them a message. It doesn't have to be a long, detailed message. It's just, but I would definitely start with a greeting. Just say, hi, Kate, thank you so much for connecting with me. I saw that you worked for so-and-so. I was just interested in learning a little bit more about them. If you don't mind, if you have a minute or two, I'd love to connect with you. And just write, thank you so much, and your name. And that's really all you have to write. And again, people who are open to helping individuals, and I get people who have crazy schedules, it might not work like that week or the next week, but maybe in 3 weeks from there, then they'll be able to have that conversation with you. And again, that just opens up another door, and to be able to do something like that. So definitely just keep reaching out, and always, another thing that I've mentioned in one of my recent videos that I posted actually is always respond to a LinkedIn message as well. Even if it's something that is not irrelevant to what you're looking for, responding, just going back to what Thuy, Deb, and MJ all mentioned, is responding is just another way to make a connection. It's another way to open your network, and you have no idea, and I hope COVID has taught a lot of us this, we have no idea what's going to happen in a week, 2 months, 6 months, a year from now. So you not responding to that message and then reaching out to that recruiter or manager a year later and being, oh, hey, what's up? It kind of, again, leaves that bad taste in the recruiter's mouth, saying, okay, you ignored me then, but now you need it. And I get things happen, but definitely, again, try to respond, because you also, not only you don't know what's going to happen in a certain time frame, but also they might have another opportunity that they might have for you that would be a better fit, as well as they might know, I know Thuy, and I know, you know what, I don't think you have, this isn't the best opportunity, but I actually know Thuy who works for CCRES, and I think you'd be a great fit for this. I can connect you guys. So again, just going off of that's just another step of opening up your network and keeping that conversation going with people.
I think definitely another thing I wanted to talk about sort of was Indeed. Indeed is kind of like, the way I think about it is there's this big puddle and there's a straw, and you put your resume in the puddle and it gets sucked places that you don't always even know it's going, correct? And so if you get a call from Erin or Thuy or whomever, and they mention their name and their company, or they send you an email, before you call them back, you should probably look up the company, because I know it's really hard to keep track of. Even a handshake can be like this, because you're looking for certain buzzwords, you're sending out your resume to a lot of places. And so again, sort of that slow down for a moment, figure out what exactly this place is. Look, where is it? You know, because it's sort of disappointing if I've spent a bunch of time with someone and we're in Chester County and they're like, well, that's way too far. Like, I didn't know I had to tell you all of that, right? I thought you were applying to me, and I realized that the interface doesn't always work that way. You know, so just pause, take time, sort of figure out what you're applying for. The other thing that I would say in terms of just your network is, even when you're not job searching, you'll have opportunities where professionals you have access to them. I speak in classes, for example, right? So sometimes I'll get in a classroom, or I'm going to speak with, I think, the Speech Language Club at Westchester by Zoom, the Physician Assistant Club by Zoom. I'll be there. At the end, I give my contact information. Now, somebody may not want to work in brain injury at ReMed, but they might have that as a career goal. I always offer articles. Like, if you're interested in this, I'm a good contact person. Take my name, take my contact. Whenever somebody's saying that, just take it. I don't know if you know what a Rolodex is, but figure it out. Like, you need a way to kind of keep track of this stuff, so that when the time is right, you have the content. You can't remember my name, but if you look somewhere, you'll find it.
Really appreciate that, MJ, and that story, because I will say that, you know, this event right now is a prime example of a time when you have an opportunity, and we talk about ways to stick out. Be the person who does the follow-up. Take that opportunity, because a lot of people don't, and that is how you get to be the one that stands out, that makes that connection, because you're just doing that next step. So I really appreciate you all kind of highlighting that importance of just go for it. Take the opportunity. You never know where it might go, and what might kind of come down the road. So I appreciate that. I'm going to pause here for a second. If there's anyone that wants to unmute and ask a question right now, just to give you an opportunity to do that. Or again, you're welcome to either in the larger group chat or directly to Lindsay or I if there's something you want to ask. that we can ask for you, we're happy to do that. So I just wanted to give that quick pause. Again, because I know it's sometimes hard to break in when you're doing Zoom.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gabrielle. I'm a current RN to BSN student. So I am a recent registered nurse and currently looking for an opportunity to start my career. I think one thing that I wanted to just ask everyone in general is, it was mentioned earlier that, you're sending this piece of paper, your resume, it may be getting lost in the spam or junk mail, wherever, who knows if the person read it. And I think for a lot of people, or at least specifically myself, being able to talk with someone one-on-one was more of my strong suit, especially going in as a new registered nurse. I'm wondering, whether or not in terms of standing out, if you've seen a change in people now adding their photos to their applications, or if there's still this kind of like looming overall idea that you shouldn't add a photo, or does that kind of help add to character, or give your resume a little more personality?
A Career Center answer, but I'm very intrigued to hear the employer answer on this.
Honest, Thuy, go ahead, Thuy.
No, you go ahead, Erin. You go ahead. You go first.
Honestly, I suggest not to do it, because unfortunately there are people out there that they're going to judge upon your photo versus anything else. So the suggestion is to go more of that professional route and reach out, call, especially Gabrielle, with you being in this position, being an RN, which is awesome. Congrats on this career path that you're doing. Try to cut, there's definitely HR teams within the hospitals or different office settings that you're trying to reach out to. And that's the different part about yours, is probably not too many people might be on LinkedIn, but you can definitely find out from websites and stuff what their contact name is, their information, and just do your due diligence with that stuff. I've also received letters of resumes. I know that's kind of like old school, but people have definitely stuck out that way. But I guess just to answer your question, I just don't, I would not suggest putting your photo on it. Anyone else?
Yep. No, I'm with you as well, Erin. Yeah, from an HR standpoint, yeah, we also recommend just not putting pictures on resumes, particularly because you don't know if it's going to land in the wrong hands of someone who might, make a decision based off that. And, that's an HR no anyway, like no one should be base a hiring decision on that. But yeah, you just want to just not do that. And again, to stand out, most organizations that you are applying directly to, they should have like a general like HR inbox or something along those lines that you could simply say, hey, I recently applied to this RN position at Mainline Health. I am super excited about it because I am, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. These are my skills. These are my qualifications. I'm available to work immediately. Please contact me at, gabrielledoe@gmail.com, and here's my contact number. Just something like that might add an extra flair, but just saying my application's in, I'm ready to work, here's my contact, and just leave it at that.
Thank you.
I concur on all of those parts. So it's nice because those are the things we've heard, I would say, across the board from all different types of employers aligned both with those answers. So I'd say that's still a pretty widespread response to that kind of question. Mm-hmm. Anyone else right now with a question? Why don't we then dive in, kind of going down this job search path, kind of that next step, because there were a few questions that were submitted prior that did have to do more directly with interviewing. and then particularly interviewing not in person anymore. You know, sometimes people really, that's their strong suit and that's what they're excited about, and they might feel like they're losing it a little bit in this virtual environment. So kind of tips or tricks, you know, to nailing that interview portion of things, again, particularly when it's happening in Zoom, or it might be happening over the phone more. And we might not be in spaces that are allowing for the best interviewing environment based on what we have going on at home, if that's where we are, the only access we have. So kind of just anything on those pieces of the, I keep saying Zoom, there are other platforms out there that you might run into. So know that we can always help you out in the Career Center. If you're hitting a tech problem when you're testing stuff, we can always help run through things. But yeah, kind of just tips on that next phase of interviewing and how to impress in that sense.
I'll give a little bit here. One of the first things that I would say is the technology can fail you. And we know that. We know that sometimes we're going to get on a call with someone and the quality isn't going to be right. You know, things that they're going to have trouble. The app didn't download properly, all of that. But whatever you can do ahead of time to test things, we would certainly appreciate. So I think that's one of the things, just to know you're going to have to breathe through some of this technology. And trust me, we are all breathing through it too, especially, you know, I'm old. And so some of this stuff doesn't come that naturally to me. So that would be the first thing that I would say. And the second is, you want to be prepared for it just as if you were in person, right? So live. So making sure that you are dressed, that your hair is combed, that you choose a background that is not too crazy. If possible, I say avoid a bed. You know, I know some people are doing it from their bedroom, but just flip it and do it the other wall, the other side, you know, if that's possible. And, you know, we're all in this together. I think somebody said that earlier, and we know that we'll get through it. And sometimes it will be that we hang up a Zoom and have to do it by phone, and that's okay. We expect that.
I definitely concur with MJ with all of that. I think the biggest thing is if you can just try to practice it beforehand. So either, of course, be prepared, download the app or have it ready to go in your Chrome site. Chrome is definitely probably the best way versus Internet Explorer for most programs that we have for virtual. But if you can, if it's with a recruiter, they should be willing again to do one with you to prepare you if you only do a phone interview with them, but they should be able to prepare you for one with the managers. So they should be open to doing something like that to help you through that process. But again, treat it as a very regular interview process. So definitely try not to have that bed in the background, because it almost can kind of feel just, people don't want to see too personal sometimes. So I guess that's where that comes from. So plain wall, little things in the background are completely okay. Understand that, you know, people have kids. You can probably hear my 2.5-year-old and my 6-month-old back here right now, because I just got back inside with my husband. So, you know, we get there's things that you can avoid and not avoid, and just try to do your best and be upfront from the beginning. You know, let the person know, you know, I'm sorry, the sitter canceled, or my mom was unable to come and watch the kids, or something like that. Just let them know and be upfront about it. And again, we're human as well. We understand things happen on our end, things go wrong on our end as well. So, you know, if I feel like if the other person on the other end of that virtual call does not understand it and is not empathetic about it, then it's not the right fit for you then too.
And regardless, you should always treat the interview as a give and take, because as much as we want to learn about you, you should want to learn about us, so that you can determine if that fit is right for you, because it may not be. And that's why you go to an interview. But be prepared with the questions. that you have. Check out the websites in case you have questions. In our case, we send out a job description as well. It's always helpful to me when I know that you've at least read a line on the job description, as opposed to, no, I don't have any questions. Really, all our lingo on there made sense to you? That's great. Then I know that, for some positions, that's a critical issue for me, that you're paying attention to detail, and you did some research, and shows that you do have an interest. You're not just going through the process, whether you're in person or on Zoom or WebEx or whatever other venue.
I wanted to add just something about people who are graduating in December. So a question that I get a lot, and this isn't exactly related, but it's not too early. I just want to kind of put that out there. So even if you're graduating in May and you're just curious about a company, you're not sure, reaching out and saying, I'm really thinking about brain injury rehab. I don't know a lot about it. I saw this job. I'm graduating in June. As most of us are in a recruiting position, we are here to talk to people about that kind of stuff. And so if your graduation isn't tomorrow, it's not too soon to start to do some of this work. And we might have a call that's not really an interview. It's just a call on Zoom where we're sort of exploring some stuff together. I noticed in my book today, I'm so old, I have a book, that I had 4 names written down of people who are graduating in December that I promised I would get back in touch with at the end of October. And so this is kind of how it works. So I just wanted to throw that tip in at some point. So.
What was also really great to hear from all of you, and I hope you all felt this piece of we are in it together, and that these things will happen. And I appreciate, I think it was Erin who kind of said, and Deb mentioned it too, interviewing is a two-way street, right? So if there's something that's coming up and you're feeling like, wow, I'm being judged right now for the fact that my kid needs me in this moment and I need to take a second, to be able to speak with them or whatever it might be, that is a great indicator of the kind of company and the culture that they have at that company, and maybe a way for you to be seeing a snippet and an insight you might not have gotten before in an in-person interview, right? So it's things to be paying attention to, because if those things are coming out in the interview, it's again, it's a good indicator of the environment you be in every day then, and is that the right fit for you? And it may not be. And sometimes that's hard to say, like to know that you might be turning down an opportunity because it's not right for you. I know a lot of students struggle with, but you have to know, is that fit piece there? So sometimes the virtual interview maybe is a bonus, a way to find that out, and it might feel more personal in certain ways because we are getting different insights into people since we're actually in our homes often. So that's just something kind of picked up from everyone's little tidbits there, which I appreciated. I'm going to pause again just to see if there's anyone who wants to unmute themselves and ask any follow-up questions about anything that we've talked about so far. Okay. I think I would love to hear, and I know that we talked maybe a little bit within answers about this, but there's a little anxiety and concern around all of these pieces that we're juggling, right? And I can say as a career center, I always tell students, I'm sorry that I'm giving you more homework to do, because that's often what I'm doing, is telling you to start thinking about your network, to practice your interviewing, to do all of these other pieces. So if we could just talk about that balancing act that I'm sure many of you do between the work life, the personal life, and all of those pieces, just kind of how you stay mentally healthy and checking in on your own kind of well-being, and do that magical balancing act that, again, I know some of you have already indicated is something that you've been working on and continue to work on.
I guess I'll start. So this is something my colleagues and I, you know, regularly talk about in the office as well, because, you know, here I am, you know, full-time career person, full-time mom of 3, full-time teacher, because my 2, my full-day kindergartner, my full-day second grader, they're virtual right now for the time being. So, you know, we often talk about self-care is so critical, you know, and sometimes multitasking doesn't always go in our favor because we have our hands in so many different directions that you're not truly giving one task your full best effort. So we certainly have commiserated on the fact that, you know, even if it is just like a 5-minute outside break just to reset before you re-engage in another activity, is critical, no matter what it is. You know, I know personally for me, I mean, I'm a very low tech person myself, but you know, I also have like a notebook of tasks that I have to complete in the day, and I just simply check those boxes and whatever, and start my day with prioritizing what those check boxes have to be, and whatever can be carried over to the next day. You know, I make sure I do reserve that time so that I can still focus on my own mental health and focus on my own kids, you know, when that time is right, because, you know, everything that 2020 has thrown at us so far, you know, that's the thing that we just should not lose sight over is our health and well-being and our family. So I say that with ease, but I oftentimes struggle with that myself. Because you know, here I go, I can still answer an email at 11:30 at night, and I should be taking advantage of my you know, 5-month-old sleeping, but you know, I just know certain things have to be done. But you do have to give yourself grace and know that, you know, family comes first. You know, everything else can follow, but you know, ensuring that, you know, it is my personal mission that if a candidate is reaching out to me, asking me a question, I'm going to get back to them as quickly as possible, because you know, the job market is stressful. But if that candidate is giving time to communicate back with me, I'm going to communicate back to them in a timely manner.
One of the things I would like to talk a little bit about is asking for help. And so I think that when you realize that you need some help in something, or that you're underwater, I think asking for help is really a gift that you can give to someone else in a way. You know, asking someone for some specific help makes them feel good if they can bail you out, if they can do something that's going to make your life easier. But it can't just be, I need help. It's got to be, you know, I was supposed to do this part of the project. This is as far as I've gotten. I'm running out of time. Would you be able to help me with this specific thing, right? Or would you help me figure out, you know, the best way to prioritize this or something? But asking specific things of another can make them feel really good if they can help you. It also gives them permission to ask for help of someone else. It normalizes the asking of help. And so I would just put that out as something to think about.
I think one of the things that's happened with the remote world is we got thrown into it and there were no rules. And then we're trying to figure out what those rules are. And I think, you know, being clear with yourself in terms of self-care, like if you're going to job search today, it's going to be from 11 to 2 and that's it. And you need to walk away from it and make sure that you stick to that, because unfortunately we don't have those rules, or rules are coming. It's just this immediacy because my phone has rung, a camera has popped up, this has happened, that's happened. You know, you do have kids at home. You know, one of the things today I was in a Zoom meeting and the person was talking to us about how to look good on Zoom. And she said, always have a Post-it note available to quick throw up on your camera in case your new child runs behind you, because you're not going to find the button quick enough. And I was like, wow, that's a really good tip. Nothing I would have even thought about. But yeah, you'd be fumbling like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And you know, if you just have a Post-it note, you're good. If you can't get that camera off. But you do have to take care of you first. Without, you know, it's like the airplane say, put on your own mask before you go putting on the mask of your kids, because if you're not able to manage it, then no one else is going to be able to manage it either. But you have to also set priorities for yourself. And if you're currently working and you're still looking for, another job because you finished your degree and whatever, being clear with your superiors about the expectations for you while you're on this remote world, because nobody really knows. I expect you to be available today between 12 and 1 just in case, or let's just connect every day at such and such a time, because you gotta, set those priorities around yourself to make you the priority as well as meeting your goals.
I love what everyone said, but going off of what Deb said in the beginning was having kind of a time block. That's what I really do for myself as well. Between this time and this time, I'm doing this, between this and this, and then, making sure the theme is taking care of yourself. That's always something that I always try to give advice to everyone about, is if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be happy, and that extrudes that out to everyone around you, and that just ends up being those negative vibes. So you definitely have to take care of yourself first. So really prioritizing just your schedule, your health, everything around it. I get there's so many different things that you're juggling, some more than we can handle, but definitely try to take that step back and look at the big picture and see what you need to get done right now, and then go down your list. I'm so big into doing those time blocks and having those checklists, and I really try really hard to unplug at certain times, because in the evenings to be able to spend time with the family, because I think that's definitely a huge thing, and they're a part of you, and that's what makes you you as well. So just really, again, making that schedule, trying to unplug when you need to, and just taking care of yourself overall is definitely what's going to make you be able to move forward to that next step. And something that I actually personally have been doing a lot more lately is listening to specific podcasts during kind of a little bit of downtime, to really more podcasts about empowerment and leadership and how to kind of overcome hurdles and stuff. And I really feel like it really changes your mindset a lot. So really in the mornings, what I do too is I try to think of 5 things that I'm very grateful for, and you write them down, and that's just going to change your mindset and your thought throughout that entire day, and keep you kind of going.
Finding those motivators is always a great thing to do. So that's an awesome recommendation there, whatever that might be for you, because we all need those little daily doses of things that are going to keep us going. A couple questions came in kind of on the same topic line, which is a bit more about like strategy and organizing the network a little bit. So kind of specifically, how do I keep track of who's in my network, and make sure I'm managing it? And I know a lot of you mentioned that importance of keeping up with communication as timely as possible, right? So kind of just pieces around that organization of a network, and kind of how to manage that, right? Because sometimes it can feel very small, but then the whole point of it is growing it too. So how do we just kind of keep track of everything? There's a second question, but I think that's kind of a follow-up one. So we can take that one next.
I mean, MJ, what she mentioned earlier, she has a notebook, and she had 4 students that she marked that she had to get back in contact with. So, keeping those notes, keeping those business cards, putting it in a calendar. I put everything in my phone calendar, but I also put it in a planner. So like keeping track in different ways is completely okay. Through keeping track on your network, per se, LinkedIn, just connecting with them. The more that you actually end up liking and commenting on certain things, the more similar topics and different things are going to come through your feed on LinkedIn. So really that helps you keep track, I would say. It keeps it more top of mind of what you're interested in and who you're supposed to be in contact with, and all the hashtags and all of that good stuff. But Really, I mean, I feel like everyone's organization is different, but for me, that's what works. I do it written and also on my phone.
I'm with Erin on that as well. And also, like as MJ mentioned, a Rolodex. I still have one. So I'm a visual person. I have to like touch things. So it's like, yeah, same. I mean, I just prioritize my day with like my notebook, check mark things, but then like all the business cards that I collect from, job fairs. Yeah, I just have like a place in my Rolodex to, alphabetize them. But at the same time, again, as Erin has mentioned, like your LinkedIn is going to be your key, with your connections and the people that you do message through, keeps that history there as well. And then I also save any of my contacts from students that I meet after job fairs, like I'm following up with them through email, but I'm also saving them into my Outlook contacts as well. And I make a little note there. So Microsoft Outlook contacts has been a really good friend of mine as well.
In my work, I do some recruiting and some university relations, but it's not my primary thing. I'm involved in brain injury in lots of ways as a professional. And so one of the things you guys might think about as you're building a network is sort of keeping this notebook, but starting to think about what categories people fall into. Some of them might be related to job search. Some of them might be related to places you could volunteer or a special interest group. Maybe, Gabrielle, if you're interested in rehab nursing, there's the Association of Rehab Nurses, right? And so maybe you encounter someone from there. And so you sort of put that in a category. And really, I think across a lifespan, that is sort of how we think about our contacts. They're sort of in buckets of that sort. Right now, the immediate thing might be, I want to find a job in this field, but really you have to think much broader about this when we're talking about networking. And so starting with pieces of paper and making X boxes and sticking them in might be a good way to start until you know what your categories are.
I really love that idea of kind of those categories, because a lot of the times we talk about a place to start with your networking, it might seem odd, is to start with your why. Why do I want to, connect with people? And is it to find volunteers? Is it to get some career advice? Is it to explore an industry that's new to me that I'm maybe career switching into, right? If you think about your why, you might be able to identify some of those buckets that MJ was just referring to. And when you know your why, you can go out to that connection with a lot more confidence, and that ask becomes a little bit more comfortable for you because you understand your why and why you're doing that outreach. So I really think that's an awesome way to structure things and kind of see where is it that I need. It also helps you identify where you want to grow, because you might be like, wow, I didn't know I had all this connection here, but I really don't have connections in this other place. Now I know where I can spend more of my time, because that's where my network needs to grow a little bit. That's fantastic. All right. Okay, I think I have one more question, and that I'll ask the group, and then again, if there's any leftover ones at the end, just let me know. But if you could all speak a little bit to the follow-up piece. So whether it's a job application or I reached out to someone in the network and I didn't hear anything, what do I do? When is follow-up okay? When is it too much? Where's that kind of line in doing that?
For me, I don't care if you call me every day. I'll just give you an update. It's okay. Or, we'll also reach out to you if you weren't selected. And sometimes I think people feel odd calling back saying, why not me? And while we can't get into specifics about the why not me, we might be able to point you in a direction or say, again, as I said earlier, we have one position, we had 10 applicants, and if I had 10 positions, I would take all of you, but unfortunately that wasn't the case, and to encourage you to reapply. And, the door doesn't shut just because you didn't get that job, and always remember that. Just because you didn't get that job doesn't mean you shouldn't keep applying to wherever your heart's interest is, because it will come up. You may just have to wait a while, but it will come up if that's what you're going after. It doesn't bother me if you call me all the time, or email me. I'll tell you what's happening, or we'll just become friends, and I'll say, hey, did you ever get a job yet? Or what's happening? Or, following up with, other things that you may need as well, or directing you someplace else. Or sometimes I even get tips and go, hey, this is going to happen, and, may be able to share that information as well. Or, there are other opportunities, because all of us that do this kind of work hear from others or know what everybody needs. I take a lot of CRES's students or CRES's employees, because they're there part-time while they're in school. They're looking for full-time jobs, and we get many, 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 many employees who have gone through CRES, so thank you. It is all interconnected, and I sit next to ReMed at plenty of job fairs, so I know all about them as well. So don't think that we're not all connected in some way, fashion, to know each other, to know, oh yeah, they applied and this happened, or they applied and never followed through, or oh yeah, they applied and we offered them the position, they never got back to us. So even in just a casual conversation, those things follow you.
Yeah, and even as Deb stated, I mean, I know part of our practice, on the CRES HR side, is we let our candidates know, hey, we do have other interviews we have to see through this week, but if you don't hear from me by, Friday at 3, don't hesitate to reach out. I think a lot of candidates are kind of skittish about following up after the interview, but it's totally okay. I mean, that's just another piece, an opportunity for you to restate your interest in that particular position. And as Deb stated, for whatever reason, if you're not selected, and we're going to let you know, but your interest in following up just goes to show, hey, well, maybe this particular position didn't work out for you, but we'll remember you for the next time because you did express sincere interest in the organization.
Yes, just to piggyback on them, when you apply to positions, I think it's okay to follow up on your application within the week. Email, phone call, LinkedIn, be that. And then if you don't get a response, which hopefully, again, you do get some type of response, I would say you can follow up again. I suggest definitely doing it through email or LinkedIn, just because there's a trail. So I think that's definitely a good avenue to do. And then just post interview, as Thuy was saying, if you do receive a message or email or voicemail or whatnot saying that you didn't get the interview, please always feel free to call back to get why and what you can do better. I know Deb said, sometimes we can't go into, very detailed information just because of HR reasonings, but we can give you feedback as to how you can, present yourself in a different manner, in a more professional manner, I should say, or what you can, where you can add stronger skill sets to your resume for what you're looking to move your career into that direction. We can certainly provide that feedback. But I did want to let you guys know I do have to go. I just messaged Kate, got to put my son down to bed, but I really appreciate you guys joining, and feel free. I know Kate and Lindsay both have my contact information. They're going to share it. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, shoot me an email, whatever. I am an open book, but it was great meeting with all of you guys, and Deb, MJ, and Thuy. Thanks for joining in with me.
Thank you.
See you later. Have a good night, guys.
Is there anything, again, kind of turning it over? I know we've had some great conversation and great questions already, but anything else before we start to wind down that's on your mind?
I had a quick question. Sorry, I'm at work, so that's why my camera's off. How do you answer the question when sometimes you're filling out an application and they ask, is it okay to contact your current employer, and if you're actively searching but you don't want your employer to know that you're searching for another position, how would you, like, does it look bad if you say no, not to contact the employer?
We have that on our application, and I look to see where it is. So if you tell me I can't contact any of your employers, then that's a flag to me. But if it's only your current employer, I get that. I wouldn't want to have that happen either. But when I see it's for every employer that you've had, then I throw up a flag with, wonder what happened here.
Okay, thank you.
That's right. Yeah, same as Deb stated. And yeah, it is perfectly acceptable that if it is your current employer, that, you know, if you put a note, you know, just, yeah, please don't contact unless given a conditional offer. We totally respect that, you know, provided you just let us know ahead of time.
Thank you.
Any other questions to the group? Or Lindsay, I don't know if there's any other ones that have come in or that we missed from our pre-list that were on your mind.
Can I, while we're talking about application, if I can just throw something in there. One of the things that's on our application as well is reason for leaving. And please be mindful if you have to answer those questions with how you phrase those things. So, you know, terminate it, not a good sign. My boss doesn't like me, not a good sign. There are other ways that you can go ahead and phrase some of those things that would not draw as much attention to something. So you just want to be careful about that, and how you answer that question. So, you know, better opportunities, or, you know, closer to home, or something along those lines, as opposed to, you know, they were a horrible employer. And when you're in an interview, please don't talk about your previous employers as well. You know, you can move on from that. You know, we're worried about you now. And if you had a bad experience, sorry, but that's not something to bring into an interview either.
Like boyfriends, you know, girlfriends, but it's just the same idea. It's too much information too soon to talk about another employer in that way. And again, we might be collegial with those folks. You know, we might work with them. We might be, you know, we might live next door to somebody at that employer that you're talking about. So I do think that that happens more often than I would like to say it does. You know, people will say, oh, they're the worst, and it just does not come off as a good reflection. There are lots of polite ways to say, you know, the job isn't everything that I thought it would be. I've learned a lot. I feel like I'm ready to move on. These are the skills that I developed there. And so that's my suggestion.
Another question just popped in about if the application is asking about the previous employer and contacting them, but they're no longer in business. Are there rules or ways to kind of engage that that piece?
Well, you can indicate that on your application. Sometimes you might have still, if you've networked, the contact information for maybe somebody who was in a supervisory role or a collegial role with you that would be able to vouch for you. And so those are the kind of contacts that you want to keep. As with letters of reference. So if you don't have a lot of work experience, you need to be thinking before you're applying about who could be a reference for you. Right? And how is that person going to come off? And remember, if they're going to be called, even though they might give you the most glowing reference, you need somebody who is going to answer the phone, check their email, do all of those things, or you're never going to get a reference. So those are some things to think about as you're weighing who you put on as your support people.
Yep, absolutely. As MJ stated, references oftentimes are really what holds folks up in the process. And particularly out of courtesy, you should ensure that you're asking permission from your reference that, you know, if you may use them, and let them know what job you're applying to. so that they can expect a call or email.
I think that is a really great kind of tie back in right to networking too, and the importance of maintaining your network, because a lot of those people do tend to be your references down the road and those pieces. So that relationship management and kind of continuing that, particularly if you know that you might be asking them to be that direct reference for a job, is an excellent place to be. Because I know references, especially for students, if you're, a non-traditional student, you may actually have the advantage of having some work behind you and having some great references that a traditional student might not have because they haven't been out there in the real world yet. So I'll say that's a really great advantage if you have had some different experiences, even if it's outside of a career change you're doing or something like that. You might have some really strong references because of the experiences that you've gotten being in a more non-traditional student category, which is great because that could be the thing that helps you stand out. So, but again, that maintaining that network to maintain those references is a really important piece.
And for the county, we'll only accept people who have supervised you. And so we're, if we get a person who will speak to us, we'll talk about, are you on time? How are you in comparison to some of your coworkers? So somebody who really has to know your work to answer those questions is helpful. And, we'll ask you for those. And as Kate said, make sure that they know we're calling. And, I've had to call candidates back and go, hey, we haven't been able to get a hold of so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And if I don't hear from them by such and such a time, we may need to move on. Immediately I get those phone calls. So, we shouldn't have to chase that kind of information. You really should have your folks prepared for those phone calls and give them a heads up. Hey, today I just interviewed at such and such a place. You may get a call from Deb Maccariella today, or an email or whatever. If you could respond, that would be great. That would help us out immensely.
Is there any other questions for the group right now?
I had one last question. I know at the beginning of the pandemic, there had seemed to be hiring freezes as far as recruiting healthcare professionals. And I know for some places that has continued. I wanted to ask if for your individual organization that you are the recruiter for, if your training or if your hiring process is open and welcoming to new hires as far as like not having as much as experience, or if you're seeing that organizations are more likely to take someone with 2 years of experience versus like someone that they need to kind of train from the ground up to integrate into the work environment.
That's an excellent question. Thank you for throwing that out there. It really just depends on the position. We have been hiring throughout, so we never stopped hiring. What has slowed us down a little bit is that unexpected, how do we turn our whole world virtual with onboarding staff and getting them up and ready and getting them out and about to do the work, because the work that we do at the county is critical, much like nursing. We're going out and investigating child abuse. We need to make sure that, we're onboarding somebody who's prepared to go ahead and do that when, we're not all in the office with, supports of each other with, oh my gosh, this happened today and how am I going to do that? And it's not quite the same when you're doing everything virtually, or, different challenges because of the virtualness that we hadn't anticipated, with reaching clients and the whole COVID complication and how we're going to see kids now when, there might be an abuse allegation and getting into homes and those kinds of things. So we haven't stopped hiring. Like I said, it's just really been more the challenges of how to take that all virtual when we didn't plan for any of that.
Yeah, and I work in healthcare, right? So we are absolutely hiring, and we are absolutely hiring both people with experience and people without. So I'm not sure that a lack of experience is a barrier specifically. in healthcare, at least in the realm in which I work, which is rehab, I mean, there are probably more openings than we have applicants. So we are in a position where we're onboarding people all the time. We did have a pause because we work with health vulnerable people, and we had to make sure our processes were COVID safe for everyone. And so there was a pause. But I would say since June, July, we're sort of getting more up to speed in terms of bringing people on. And in fact, I'm sort of working with my team to figure out internships even starting for next semester and what we might be able to do. And again, in health sciences, we can only do so much virtually. It's not really a clinically appropriate experience if people don't come to us. And so I would say in lots of healthcare, you'll find that to be true as well. We're finding ways to adapt and bringing people on board, both experienced people and new people.
Yeah, and just piggybacking off of what, Deb and MJ have stated, I mean, the only pause that we had was just, well, actually, namely because we staff in area school districts. So certainly when the shutdown happened on, March 16th, we were on a 3-month kind of just waiting to figure out if schools were going to reopen to brick and mortar. But a lot of our district partners still needed to provide services to students who had individualized education plans when the school year did resume at the end of August. So really for us, like we really started picking up again with our hiring when the school year started back. And for some schools that are still 100% virtual, there are still students who need support in their home environment. So we provide our staff with PPE. Our positions are great for those who are starting their career because, it's not always important how much experience someone has working with children, so much that, do you have a genuine interest in helping people? Are you a good communicator? Are you good at following up? Could you make a family member feel comfortable with your presence in their own home? So all these things that we've talked about with communication and networking and follow through and presentation, it's all critical. And even for us, at CRES, we're oftentimes for folks starting someone's career. So even if you say, hey, Twee, I can commit to you guys at least for the end of the academic year, then great. This would be great experience to build up to a job like what Deb or MJ might have to offer one day for, full-time ongoing position that, might then be your long-term career past working during a 10-month academic school calendar year. So we organizationally always welcome folks, who have a genuine interest in making a difference in, in someone's life, provided that you can make a commitment to, working a schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's so reassuring. Thank you so much.
I like to hear that. It's reassuring. I hope everyone's feeling confident and kind of getting all the great tips to feel positive in whatever that next action step is for you. Okay, I think Lindsay and I have just a couple of wrap-up things before we end the evening today. So I think we got some amazing tips. I knew LinkedIn would be a great networking piece, and our employers and alum had some awesome pieces on that. If that was new to you, or you're like, I got it, but I'm not doing anything with it, which is 99% of the people that I talk to, you can come in, schedule an appointment with the Career Center. We can go through that process and really dive down with you individually about what you need assistance with, and continue to kind of put into place a lot of the tips that you heard today. Also, just wanted to point out, we have what we call RAM Nation, which is new from the Career Development Center. This is, I call it kind of our own internal LinkedIn. So from the employers, if you're not on here and you are an alum, you're welcome to join RAM Nation as an alumni. But it's essentially alum who say, I'm here, right? So we're already easing that networking process because they're intentionally volunteering their time in this system to say, I want to connect with students. We have over about 700 in there already, which is fantastic. So for current students, you have full access to that through your single sign-on like you would many of your other Westchester things. So you might want to take a peek at that. as again, it's really meant to be hopefully a more comfortable place to dive into this online networking thing a little bit, because the alumni are there, very excited and very passionate about connecting with you all. I am going to also put in the chat now all of the contact information for all 4 of our employers here today. And I also did mention Caitlin, who was from Chester County Hospital, had a last minute family thing, but she wanted me to definitely share her information with everyone, because she is more than happy to have you do outreach. And I don't think I need to talk about the importance of this follow-up after today, because we've already mentioned it. I think kind of showcase that through all of the wonderful feedback that we've gotten from our panelists. So I was gonna say, Lindsay, I'll pass it back off to you.
Yeah, so very last but not least, for those of you who are participating with us today, if you would take a few brief minutes, I put a link in the chat, or you can use your phone to the QR code just to let us know sort of how your takeaways from today's event. We really appreciate the time that you spent with us. I know it's a lot to ask to be on Zoom in an evening, but I appreciate you investing in yourselves and in your careers by joining us tonight. And I can't express my gratitude enough for MJ, Thuy, Deb, and Erin for spending your time imparting all this wonderful wisdom for our students this evening as well.
Okay, so we can all give a virtual applause, or if you haven't learned, the little reaction hand claps are down at the bottom if you're ever looking for that, or some thumbs up. Yes, thank you so much to our panelists. It's been some really fantastic and wonderful insight, and I hope that you can continue to connect with the Westchester students that you've met here tonight.
Have a great night,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, and if that is it, if anyone needs anything else or has individual questions for Lindsay and I, we'll definitely stay on for a second or two, something we can answer. But if not, again, thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you. Please reach out.
Yep, I'm on LinkedIn. Come find me. Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Stay healthy and safe.